Was Sir Francis Bacon a second Prometheus? Did his great love for the people of the world and his pity for their ignorance cause him to bring the divine fire from heaven concealed within the contents of a printed page? In all probability, the keys to the Baconian riddle will be found in classical mythology. He who understands the secret of the seven-rayed god will comprehend the method employed by Bacon to accomplish his monumental labor. Aliases were assumed by him in accordance with the attributes and order of the members of the planetary system. One of the least known, but most important, keys to the Baconian enigma is the third, or 1637, edition, published in Paris, of Les Images ou tableaux de plate peinture des deux philosophes sophistes Greeks et les statues de Callistrate, by Blaise de Vigenère. The title page of this volume, which, as the name of the author when properly deciphered indicates, was written by or under the direction of Bacon or his secret society, is one mass of important Masonic or Rosicrucian symbols. On page 486 appears a plate entitled Hercules for Ill, showing a gigantic figure shaking a spear, the ground before him strewn with curious emblems. In his curious work, Das Bild des Speerstellers die Ellung des Shakespeare Cells, Alfred Freud attempts to explain the Baconian symbolism in the Philostrates. Bacon he reveals as the philosophical Hercules, whom time will establish as the true spear-shaker Shakespeare. Insert. Title page of the famous first edition of Sir Walter Raleigh's History of the World. From Raleigh's History of the World. What was the mysterious knowledge which Sir Walter Raleigh possessed and which was declared to be detrimental to the British government? Why was he executed when the charges against him could not be proved? Was he a member of those feared and hated secret societies which nearly overthrew political and religious Europe during the 16th and 17th centuries? Was Sir Walter Raleigh an important factor in the Bacon-Shakespeare Rosicrucian Masonic enigma? By those seeking the keys to this great controversy, he seems to have been almost entirely overlooked. His contemporaries are unanimous in their praise of his remarkable intellect, and he has long been considered one of Britain's most brilliant sons. Sir Walter Raleigh, soldier, courtier, statesman, writer, poet, philosopher, and explorer, was a scintillating figure at the court of Queen Elizabeth. Upon this same man, King James, after the death of Elizabeth, heaped every indignity within his power. The cowardly James, who shuddered at the mention of weapons and cried like a child when he was crossed, was insanely jealous of the brilliant courtier. Raleigh's enemies, playing upon the king's weakness, did not cease their relentless persecution until Raleigh had been hanged and his decapitated, quartered, and disemboweled body lay at their feet. The title page reproduced above was used by Raleigh's political foes as a powerful weapon against him. They convinced James I that the face of the central figure upholding the globe was a caricature of his own, and the enraged king ordered every copy of the engraving destroyed. But a few copies escaped the royal wrath. Consequently the plate is extremely rare. The engraving is a mass Rosicrucian and Masonic symbols, and the figures on the columns in all probability conceal a cryptogram. More significant still is the fact that the page facing this plate is a headpiece identical with that used in the 1623 folio of Shakespeare and also in Bacon's Novum Organum. The cryptogram is a factor in symbolic philosophy. No treatise which deals with symbolism would be complete without a section devoted to the consideration of cryptograms. The use of ciphers has long been recognized as indispensable in military and diplomatic circles, but the modern world has overlooked the important part played by cryptography in literature and philosophy. If the art of deciphering cryptograms could be made popular, it would result in the discovery of much hitherto unsuspected wisdom possessed by both ancient and medieval philosophers. It would prove that many apparently verbose and rambling authors were wordy for the sake of concealing words. Ciphers are hidden in the most subtle manner. They may be concealed in the watermark of the paper upon which a book is printed. They may be bound into the covers of ancient books. They may be hidden under imperfect pagination. They may be extracted from the first letters of words or the first words of sentences. They may be artfully concealed in mathematical equations or in apparently unintelligible characters. They may be extracted from the jargon of clowns or revealed by heat as having been written in sympathetic ink. They may be word ciphers, letter ciphers, or apparently ambiguous statements whose meaning could be understood only by repeated careful readings. They may be discovered in the elaborately illuminated initial letters of early books, or they may be revealed by a process of counting words or letters. If those interested in Freemasonic research would give serious consideration to this subject, they might find in books and manuscripts of the 16th and 17th centuries the information necessary to bridge the gap in Masonic history that now exists between the mysteries of the ancient world and the craft masonry of the last 3 centuries. The arcana of the ancient mysteries were never revealed to the profane except through the media of symbols. Symbolism fulfilled the dual office of concealing the sacred truths from the uninitiated and revealing them to those qualified to understand the symbols. Forms are the symbols of formless divine principles. Symbolism is the language of nature. With reverence the wise pierce the veil and with clearer vision contemplate the reality. But the ignorant, unable to distinguish between the false and the true, behold the universe of symbols. It may well be said of nature, the Great Mother, that she is ever tracing strange characters upon the surface of things, but only to her eldest and wisest sons as a reward for their faith and devotion does she reveal the cryptic alphabet which is the key to the import of these tracings. The temples of the ancient mysteries evolved their own sacred languages, known only to their initiates and never spoken save in the sanctuary. The illumined priests considered it sacrilege to discuss the sacred truths of the higher worlds or the divine verities of eternal nature in the same tongue as that used by the vulgar for wrangling and dissension. A sacred science must needs be couched in a sacred language. Secret alphabets also were invented, and whenever the secrets of the wise were committed to writing, characters meaningless to the uninformed were employed. Such forms of writing were called sacred or hermetic alphabets. Some, such as the famous angelic writing, are still retained in the higher degrees of Masonry. Secret alphabets were not entirely satisfactory, however, for although they rendered unintelligible the true nature of the writings, their very presence disclosed the fact of concealed information, which the priests also sought to conceal. Through patience or persecution, the keys to these alphabets were eventually acquired and the contents of the documents revealed to the unworthy. This necessitated employment of more subtle methods for concealing the divine truths. The result was the appearance of cryptic systems of writing designed to conceal the presence of both the message and the cryptogram. Having thus devised a method of transmitting their secrets to posterity, the Illuminati encouraged the circulation of certain documents specially prepared through incorporating into them ciphers containing the deepest secrets of mysticism and philosophy. Thus medieval philosophers disseminated their theories throughout Europe without evoking suspicion, since volumes containing these cryptograms could be subjected to the closest scrutiny without revealing the presence of the hidden message. During the Middle Ages scores of writers, members of secret political or religious organizations, published books containing ciphers. Secret writing became a fad. Every European court had its own diplomatic cipher, and the intelligentsia vied with one another in devising curious and complicated cryptograms. The literature of the 15th, 16th, and 17th centuries is permeated with ciphers, few of which have ever been decoded. Many of the magnificent scientific and philosophic intellects of this period dared not publish their findings, because of the religious intolerance of their day. In order to preserve the fruitage of their intellectual labors for mankind, these pioneers of progress concealed their discoveries in ciphers, trusting that future generations, more kindly than their own, would discover and appreciate their learning. Many churchmen, it is interesting to note, used cryptograms, fearing excommunication or a worse fate should their scientific researches be suspected. Only recently an intricate cipher of Roger Bacon's has been unraveled, revealing the fact that this early scientist was well versed in the cellular theory. Lecturing before the American Philosophical Society, Dr. William Romaine Newbold, who translated the cipher manuscript of the friar, declared there are drawings which so accurately portray the actual appearance of certain objects that it is difficult to resist the inference that Bacon had seen them with a microscope. These are spermatozoa, the body cells in the seminiferous tubes, the ova, with their nuclei distinctly indicated. There are 9 large drawings, of which one at least bears considerable resemblance to a certain stage of development of a fertilized cell. See Review of Reviews, July, 1921. Had Roger Bacon failed to conceal this discovery under a complicated